Today on Inquirer, President Bongbong Marcos backs Maharlika Investment Fund.
No, it's very clear that we need other investment. It's another way to get that.
After European lawmakers threatened to cut trade perks, President Bongbong Marcos to raise issue on human rights abuses in the Philippines during Asean-EU summit. House panel approves penal provisions, other amendments on Maharlika Investment Fund. And prices of gasoline, diesel, and kerosene to roll back for the fourth consecutive week. Good evening. For the first time, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has publicly expressed support for the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund that seeks to establish a 275 billion peso sovereign wealth fund. Speaking to reporters on the way to Belgium, the President said that the proposed MIF would be needed to provide additional investment for the government. Critics have slammed administration allies for allegedly rushing the passage of the bill. However, Marcos said they are just doing the regular process of the bill. Marcos also allayed the fears of the public over possible misuse of government funds due to alleged questionable provisions in the bill, saying to wait for the legislature because these provisions might even no longer exist in the bill's final form. Meanwhile, the President has arrived in Brussels, Belgium, to attend the Association of Southeast Asian Nations European Union Commemorative Summit, his 7th official trip abroad since assuming office. The President and his official delegation aboard the presidential plane arrived at the Abelag Aviation private hangar at 9:53 a.m. Manila time. Marcos is scheduled to have a meeting with a European businessman where he is expected to secure at least 6.2 billion pesos in investment pledges. The President will also deliver a speech at the opening ceremony of the Asean-EU Commemorative Summit. On the sidelines of the summit, the Chief Executive will also hold about 10 bilateral meetings with other countries.
It's very clear that we need other investment. It's another way to get that. Let's not debate until we see the final form, because we could be debating about provisions that will no longer exist. So, antayin natin kung anong gawin ng legislature. Well, we're just doing the regular process of looking at the bill. Well, not we. It's the legislature. So let them do their jobs.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will raise the issue of human rights abuses in the Philippines during a 3-day summit in Brussels after European lawmakers threatened to cut trade perks for Manila due to abuses linked to the previous administration. In an interview with the reporters on board the presidential plane, Marcos said he will bring up human rights abuses at the EU, although Marcos believed human rights and trade relations should not be related to each other. The generalized scheme of preferences plus was granted to the Philippines in 2014, allowing the duty-free entry of more than 6,000 exports from Manila. However, to maintain this incentive, the country should comply with its obligations under 27 conventions on human and labor rights. The European Union has condemned the human rights abuses in the Philippines, particularly during the war under former President Rodrigo Duterte, which had claimed more than 6,000 mostly poor Filipinos. Meanwhile, Marcos also said that the Philippines would address the deficiencies in the country's maritime education, saying the country would comply with the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers. Early this year, the EU flagged the Philippines for deficiencies in local seafarer training and education. This put at risk the jobs of some 50,000 Filipino seafarers deployed on EU vessels. The Philippines had yet to pass international standards for seafarers training since 2006.
I think they've changed their approach now to the accreditation. And I think we'll be all right. Everybody in the industry is working very hard for us to get that accreditation. We just have, there's no two ways about it. It's not something you can debate about. You comply. We will have to comply so that we will be accredited.
Sir, one last point on this.
It's not discretionary.
Yeah.
Tropical storm Rosal slightly weakens as it continues to move away from the country. To give us an update, here's Pag-asa weather specialist Veronica Torres. Ms. Veronica?
Hi, good evening, Neil, and to all of our viewers. So for now, you're right. Result slightly weakens as it continues to move away from our country, and also it was last sighted based on all available data at 880 kilometers east of extreme northern Luzon, with maximum sustained winds of 75 kilometers per hour and gustiness up to 90 kilometers per hour. Currently, it's moving. Yes. And currently it's moving east-northeast at 15 kilometers per hour. And yes.
Yes, Ms. Veronica, just a question, no? Kasi maaaring ito yung tanong ng ating mga kababayan. Inaasahan po ba natin na itong bagyong ito ay magla-landfall kasi ito yung talagang pinaghahandaan ng ating mga kababayan?
Sa kasalukuyan, hindi na po natin nakikita na magla-landfall ito sa ating bansa, bagamat papalayo na po siya sa ating landmass.
Inaasahan pa po ba na magtataas ng tropical cyclone weather signal dito sa ilang lugar?
Hindi na rin po.
Okay, magdadala po ba itong bagyong ito ng mga pag-ulan, at kung magdadala man po ito ng pag-ulan, ano-ano pong mga lugar ang inaasahan natin na uulanin sa mga darating na araw?
Sa kasalukuyan po ay hindi na natin nakikita na magdadala ito ng mga malalakas na pag-ulan sa kahit na anong bahagi ng bansa, at sa kasalukuyan din ay nakikita natin na itong bagyong to ay wala na siyang direktang epekto sa ating bansa.
Okay, thank you. Maraming salamat po. That's Pag-asa Weather Specialist Veronica Torres. The United States government has neither communicated any extradition request nor issued a warrant of arrest against Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Kiboloy, according to Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla. The DOJ chief disclosed this to reporters today, explaining that the U.S. government may have just initially proceeded with the freezing of Kiboloy's assets. Remulla also said that the DOJ is still waiting at the sidelines on what the action of the U.S. government will be as cases against Kiboloy pile up. On December 10, the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control announced in a statement that it imposed a financial sanction on Kiboloy to promote accountability for human rights abusers and corrupt actors across the world. Prior to this, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, had released a wanted poster for Kiboloy over conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking by force, fraud and coercion, and sex trafficking of children. Sex trafficking by force, fraud and coercion, conspiracy, and bulk cash smuggling. A House of Representatives panel has approved several amendments to the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund, including penal provisions that would prescribe a jail time and fines for officials who violate investment policies. According to House Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries Chairperson and Manila 5th District Representative Erwin Tieng, they have approved the amendments mentioned during last Friday's hearing of Committee on Appropriations. This included the removal of government service insurance system and social security system allocations from pooled funds. According to Tieng, Albay 2nd District Representative Joey Salceda introduced to the officials several penal provisions. Salceda's insertion stated that stockholders or members of the proposed Maharlika Investment Corporation can suffer imprisonment and or pay a fine if proven guilty of violating guidelines. Another provision stated that the MIC cannot be a manager of a company it invests in, making it a mere passive investor. Aside from these, other provisions mentioned last Friday, like the removal of the president as the chairman of the MIC board and the increase in independent directors from 2 to 4, have been approved. Local oil companies will roll back their pump prices effective tomorrow, December 13. Gasoline prices will decrease by 1 peso and 70 centavos per liter, while diesel prices will be slashed by 3 pesos and 40 centavos per liter. Meanwhile, the prices of kerosene will be cut by 4 pesos and 40 centavos per liter. This is the 4th consecutive week of rollbacks for prices of petroleum products. Alamin natin ang mainit na balita sa mundo ng showbiz kasama si Irvin Santiago ng Bandera. Irvin?
Hi Neil at sa lahat ng mga kabandera natin all over the universe. Ito na nga ang latest Bandera Chika. Umabot pala sa 1 billion pesos ang nawala sa kapamilya couple na sina Ronnie Alonte at Loisa Andalio matapos mabiktima ng bukas kotse gang kamakailan lamang. Bukod nga sa 3 mamahaling gadgets na natangay ng mga suspect, ay nawala ring parang bulang 1 bilyong piso ni Ronnie at Loisa in cryptocurrency na nakasave sa isang nanakaw na cellphone mula sa kanila at hindi na nga ito ma-retrieve. Naganap ang insidente noong December 1 sa mismong araw ng formal na pagbubukas ng pag-aari nilang cafe and resto sa isang lugar sa Bacoor, Cavite. Ayon kina Ronnie at Loisa, talagang nakakatroma ang nangyari sa kanila pero nagpapasalamat pa rin sila dahil walang anumang nangyaring masama sa kanila noong araw na yon. Nakita pa raw ni Ronnie ang mga suspect matapos basagin ang kanyang kotse sa windshield na pag-aari niyang Jeep Wrangler Wagon. Kwento pa ng aktor, nakita pa raw niya ang mukha ng mga kawatan na bumasag sa kanyang kotse at na-confirm nga ito ng reviewin ng CCTV. Hanggang ngayon ay iniimbestigahan pa rin ng pulisya ang insidente at hindi pa rin nahuhuli ang mga suspect. Umaasa sina Loisa at Ronnie na maaaresto ng mga ito para wala nang mabiktima pang iba. Ayon pa kay Ronnie, more or less nga raw ay 1 bilyong piso ang nasa kripto nila at mahirap na raw itong mabawi kapag nawala o napakialaman ng ibang tao. Sabi pa ni Loisa, ilang oras din silang nanatili sa police station para i-report ang nangyari. Aniya, inireport na nila ito sa bangko pero kapag crypto nga raw ay baka wala na. Dagdag pa ni Loisa, talagang nakakatroma ang naging experience nila pero nagpapasalamat pa rin sila ni Ronnie na walang masamang nangyari sa kanila. At yan ang Bandera Chika natin for today. Thanks Neil!
Grabe, kailangan talaga mag-ingat ngayong Pasko. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. It's 13 days before Christmas. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.